Welcome to Section 4, File Services. Now in this section, we're going to look at first creating storage pools, then DFS, both setting up DFS namespace and then enabling replication. And then we'll wrap up this section by taking a look at iSCSI, setting up a target and then setting up an initiator. So the infrastructure you'll need for this section, our trusty domain controller DCO1 should still be up and running. I'm creating two file servers, File01 and File02, and they have additional disks. Now, I'll include some PowerShell to create additional disks and be able to attach them to your server. So there'll be some example code there. Otherwise, if you want to go ahead without the code, you just need to create two disks of the same sizes and attach them to your VM, and we'll take care of the rest as we move through the section. So let's go ahead and move into storage pools. In this video, we'll do a quick overview where I've set up a storage pool on the first file server, and then we'll jump over to the second file server and configure the second one ourselves. So here I am on the first file server, and I am going to go into the File and Storage Services tab over here, and then let's just drop down to Storage Pools, where I've already created the storage pool for this server. Now, if you look here, we have our first storage pool. It is completely allocated. We used up all the disks we applied to it, and we had added these disks here. So I put the two disks that I created that I attached extra, and from there, after creating the pool, a virtual disk was created and assigned the drive letter D. So what this all allowed me to do is take multiple disks and create that single entry point for them. So it can be a variety of disks. You can use multiple enclosures. It supports JBOD, so you can have disks of all shapes and sizes. You can tier your storage and essentially swallow that all up into a single drive letter that you can use to store your data on. So in this case, we have a D drive. It has 125 gig of capacity, but there's actually two disks, as you can see over here, that's 127 gig. That's because I set this up in a mirrored configuration. So that layout will allow you to have a little bit of resiliency, as it will take all the data on one disk and mirror that to a second one. So let's go ahead and walk through what it looks like to set this up on your own. For that, I'm going to jump over to File02, and we'll open up the server manager and wait for this thing to load up. There's File and Storage Services. Let's go ahead and look at our storage pools. And here we can see there's a base storage pool here called Primordial. It just has any available disks. So we can see our physical disks are here, and they're currently sitting in that pool. What we want to do is create our own pool that we can start using to build a volume. So let's go to Tasks and create a new storage pool, and we'll walk through this wizard. The storage pool name, let's say first storage pool, and we're going to pull from the primordial pool right here. And then we'll see both of our disks are here and they're ready to join. So we'll select them and hit next. And so now you'll see on File02, we're using the Windows Storage subsystem to create first storage pool. And the capacity is that 254 gigs, so 227 gig disks. And then here's the two disks that we're using. So we'll go ahead and create. And you can see it creates the pool, updates the cache, and then we now have our first storage pool above. From here, we have that storage pool, but we do need to create the virtual disk. So we'll go ahead and click on the new virtual disk wizard over here. And we want to make a virtual disk out of that first storage pool. Let's go ahead and call this my virtual disk. And you can see here there's a checkbox. If I did have different storage, it said the storage tiers enable automatic movement of the most frequently accessed files to faster storage. There's no faster storage here. It's all just VHD files that are running off the same hard drive. So there is no way to actually utilize that at this point. I'll go ahead and hit next. Enclosure Awareness. So this is something, if you are using multiple enclosures, you can make sure that, or it will make sure that the data does not get the redundant copy stored on the same enclosure. So in case you lose an entire enclosure, you still have that resiliency. You haven't lost any data. Then take a look at the storage layout. We're going to stick with mirror here, so it's going to essentially whatever the amount of disks we're using are, we're going to get half of that capacity, but we're going to have reliability as if we lose one disk, we do have the backup. Go ahead and assume the default for the provisioning type here and just have a fixed volume, and then we'll want to use the maximum space and do a confirmation. Okay, so we've created the virtual disk. You can see here that closing this will kick off a wizard to create that volume where we can set up our drive letter. So if I hit close here, we're at the new volume wizard. Go ahead and hit next. File O2, disk 3 is our, now you can see 125 gig capacity disk. And we'll go ahead and use the maximum size, assign it to drive letter D, and let's keep NTFS formatting and call this our data drive. Hit create, and it's going to take a second to format, and then it'll add the drive letter, and we should have our new drive ready for use. Okay, there we go. So let's hit close, go back to disks, and you'll see we have our additional disk here. You can get information on the storage pool and that we've used all the capacity. And then if we open up Explorer, we can go to this PC, and you'll see we now have a data drive that we can use for storing any files or starting to create file shares. So you can see through the storage pools here that we can take these multiple disks and create that single entry point.